Introverted intuition is more complex and more complicated than most people think. But understanding the two blends, the two variations of introverted intuition is extremely helpful in self-development, self-understanding, self-awareness, personal growth. And it's clearly defined in Dario Nardi's book here, Decode Your Personality, Go Beyond Myers-Briggs with 64 brain-based subtypes. As an INFP, I use introverted intuition as my sixth function, and it's something that I've had to work hard on developing because of the natural clashing that it has with my personality type. But whatever your personality type is, it's important to understand that there are strengths and weaknesses within each of these cognitive functions, depending on where it is within your cognitive function stack, which I'm not going to get into too much in this video. But what I do want to do is I'm going to go through this book, reading it, and you'll hear my reflections on it. We'll talk about some of the different aspects that Dario Nardi points out, and then you can understand which version of introverted intuition you most likely use, which helps you make more efficient decisions and understand your intuition. So let's go. Introverted intuiting, NI. Often, introverted intuiting, NI, is described in two ways, as analytical for NI types with thinking and as holistic for NI types with feeling. But both sides show up for all NI types, and really for everyone. Even though NI is the least commonly favored among the 8 functions in the population, everybody has all 8 playing out in some way, if even in the shadows. So we can talk here about any person who is reaching into the future or opening up to the unconscious, even if that person does not favor NI. Starting out with a bang, this is something that's really important for everybody to understand, is that we do use all 8 of these functions. People who are starting to learn about the cognitive functions and personality type sometimes don't realize that. And they're like, well, I don't have NI. It's not within my top 4, so I don't use it. But we have it. And the way that I approach this is personifying them as different characters, different character classes. You can check out this video over here about that. Maybe it's over here. I don't know. And by doing that, you're accepting it as a part of yourself, and you're building rapport with it. You're building a relationship with it, which is actually strengthening your neural pathways and doing some really cool stuff with neuroplasticity, ego states, parts work from NLP, all stuff that you can look into. But knowing that we have all these 8 is important. Analytic, Yang, NI, the visionary. The analytic version of NI is active, fixated, and focused, a more Yang style. This is someone who is driven, maybe innovative, and certainly sticking to a powerful vision of the future to improve themselves or to build something, whether that's through a creative project or a business or to improve society, whatever it is. So with all of these, the analytic Yang version is the fixated version. Okay, it's focused on, one main point, one main core aspect or idea or experience. And the holistic yin version is more diffuse. And we'll get into that within the rest of this as well. There's a special willpower that comes with Yang and I, and there's a certainty around it that is really compelling. The result is a lot of drive, which easily leads to tunnel vision. The person will not water down his or her vision, won't let it go. As part of this, the NI user has insights, realizations, or aha moments. And then they recruit those realizations as principles to support the vision and help make it happen. These realizations can feel and look analytical, as if it's something arrived at by logic or deep contemplation, and the result is a complex idea, a concept with an analytical quality. A tip-off is that the idea is often graphical in nature, and the path that birthed it is murky at best. Another tip-off is that the person embodies a purpose and ends up acting as a guiding spirit for others. So one thing that I remembered when I first was learning about cognitive functions from one of A.J. Drenth's books, I'm not sure which one it is, maybe I can find it, but he was talking about a crystallizing process of NI. Like, it's got a vision and it takes some time to crystallize and then hatch. And Dario's, paragraph here really kind of made me think of that, of like, we're working on this thing. Our mind is working on this thing and it's going towards this direction. And once it crystallizes, and once it hatches, then there's no stopping it, and it brings this massive boost of willpower and focus and devotion towards it. Like, I just have to manifest this insight, this idea. Like, I can't stop myself. It's some sort of divine intervention or something like that. Elon Musk is a great example of visionary yang and I. He sticks to a singular guiding vision. His central vision is the human colonization of Mars, but it goes beyond the obvious, building rockets. For example, even the Tesla car meets his vision for space. Can we drive these electric cars on Mars? Musk's solar power storage units also meet his vision. That's what it comes down to. Everything serves to manifest the vision, and that which does not serve is reshaped, deprioritized, or discarded. I think that's really cool. Just the full force, like, oh, I'm just gonna make this happen, and everything else goes away. Like number two, number three, not even part of the picture. Only the one thing. Analytic and I can fixate on arguments or causal patterns. For example, in a single moment, this NI user gets a clear image of a whole pattern of behavior they notice going on in a group. If they name it, typically others will reply that it sounds outrageous. I hear about this all the time. Like, as an NI user, they'll say, like, this is what's going on, this is the thing. And nobody believes it, everybody dismisses it. And then eventually it comes about and happens. And then everyone's like, why didn't you tell us? Or, like, oh, you were right, but, it must have been a fluke. Like, people just don't believe the power of an I and the clarity that can come about through utilizing your whole mind. This is one thing that I've loved about learning and practicing and getting certified in hypnosis, is that you're activating more of your unconscious mind, which I equate to NI. And so if I can get better at that, if you can get better at that, then you have more access to your potential, which is super cool. Even if you can't fully explain it, you can learn different ways and techniques, adding extroverted thinking, logical structure to it, add some extroverted feeling, like getting people on board, unifying people around a vision. There are things that you can do to help communicate NI visions better. Is it easy? Nope. And yet the NI user sees it, including how the situation will play out, where everything will land eventually, and what's needed to correct it. But few, if anyone, listens. Then down the line, more often than not, the insight is proven prescient. Of course, this side of NI can sometimes be way off the mark while overconfident with tunnel vision. See? It happens. I swear I haven't read this book yet, but it's a thing with NI that, like, I just know this is going to happen, but I can't explain how it happens, but it's going to happen. Just trust me. And your whole brain has found every data point and it just pinpoints it, like, this thing. This is what we got to watch out for. I call introverted intuiting and introverted sensing both as protectors. And introverted sensing is protecting by utilizing the past experiences, past lessons, to stabilize things and understand what's going to happen now and possibly into the future. Introverted intuiting protects by seeing what's going to happen into the future and preparing yourself now, or taking action in accordance to that. And yes, with everything, people can miscalibrate. So I always make sure that it's important for any personality type to, even if it's your strength, like, you might be miscalibrating. Even me with introverted feeling, extroverted intuiting, mistakes happen. And so knowing that, but accepting that usually you're probably going to be right, but still going through the due diligence to check it is really important. I always tell my wife, who's an ENFJ, like, trust your NI, trust your intuition. And when she does, it's remarkable. But often she kind of fights against it because she doesn't want to slow down, even though slowing down is the way to speed up. Holistic yin NI, the oracle. The other side of NI is the oracle, receptive, reflective, and diffuse. Using NI this way is like getting into a certain altered state, a curtained state of consciousness. It means being engaged with, dancing with, a creative muse, and the archetypal world in general. I love that. That sounds cool too. Like, I'm such a fanboy of all the cognitive functions. It's like, I don't know, it just brings this like superhero kind of like, so cool. Oh, and if you want these superpowers, you can go to Path of Heroes Academy, get the course. You can learn about all these different cognitive functions in a deeper way and use hypnosis tracks and character creation to activate them more in your real life so that you can get closer to having those powers. Now, if you're not an INJ, you might not get an I as strong as one of them, right? Because they've been practicing it for 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years. I don't know how old you are or how old they are, but you can have a better relationship with it. You can give it XP, you can give it experience, you can let your mind know that it's important to you to work on this cognitive function, this part of yourself. And things become easier, and you have this massive resource of problem solving capabilities that you can go to anytime by shifting perspectives. Now back to the show. Yin and I is otherworldly. It's like a Greek oracle, or like relying on hypnosis, or working with psychedelics, or being a yogi, or mystical poet. This is where we get into Jung's description of NI. While he touched on both versions, he emphasized yin. He himself practiced active imagination, a technique to invite images up from the conscious. Maybe up from the unconscious? This is not meant to be whimsical, and its purpose is, let's meet in the shadowy middle. Ooh, I love that. That's a cool phrase. He describes an organ of imagination that is a bridge to the larger infinite psychic realm, and his dreamlike adventures are detailed in his Red Book. Learning about active imagination has been really helpful in my direction as well with Geek Psychology and Path of Heroes Academy. I've made a tabletop RPG that focuses on the characters and playing as them, role playing as them, and seeing what they bring to your conscious mind. And it comes from clean language and clean space as well, which is something that you might be interested in if you are interested in this kind of mental space, mental panorama, and interacting with the unconscious mind. His bias for yin and I is why some are misled about his type. But a yin bias does not mean he was, for example, an INFJ. An INTJ, ENTJ, INTP, or ISTP, or such could have strong yin and I too. Regardless of his true type, Jung talked about NI as cultivating an aesthetic and spiritual experience, which is more on the yin side. I wonder what personality type Dario thinks Carl Jung is. Another example is the shaman. This is an ancient embodiment of NI. The shaman acts as a bridge between the spirit world and the material community. He, she, or they acts mostly as a bridge, and the spirit world is an archetypal realm filled with all sorts of energetic complexes represented in symbolic form. Spirit animals, deities, wise and well ancestors, and stranger or not so friendly forms. The climax of that process is the white light, as Jung described in The Psychology of Kundalini Yoga. As for being a medium or oracle, that kind of role, a receptacle or channel, is even more strongly yin, and that NI user needs great psychological fortitude to engage in it safely. Ooh, spooky. I think connecting with animal spirits, spirituality in general, energetic systems is really cool. And it's something that I've practiced within meditation and hypnosis and the weird things that I delve into. It's a lot of fun. And even if you don't believe in it, you can get results from it. Like, you don't need to believe in it to do it and have a result happen. But if you do believe in it, if you do have some sort of, I guess, yin and I component, oracle component, or preference to you, then maybe it's helpful. Yin and I is adept at holding multiple blurry quantum visions at once for themselves and others. It's less pointed and less productive than Yang and I, and rather than being future focused, it is timeless. There is a downside. It can be lazy, a useless mystic, and not just disorganized, but mentally confused. Moreover, yin and I is largely unwelcome, as is, in the modern world, and thus individuals who would naturally go here instead easily satisfy themselves with dream analysis, tarot, or fantastical books, fairs, films, games, and so on. I think that's me. That paragraph, I think, just described me. I wanted to major in dream analysis. I've definitely studied a lot about it and metaphor in general, tarot, of course, and made my own versions of tarot and things. Yeah, fantastical books, of course, games, films, all those things. All those things. Sorting flavors of Ni. Think of Ni with two sides, akin to light and dark. When Ni is the dominant function, hopefully both sides work together synergistically, as is true for all the functions. Other times there's a clear bias, such as the innovative science businessman who would not touch the oracle side until maybe much later in life. I think I had so much to say right then that my mind just went blank. Let's compare. With more yang Ni, we hold a vision. We have a productive creative process and are clear on complex concepts. All fine, but we are also not keen to open up and allow ourselves to be transformed in an unforeseen way. We may think we can grow according to a master plan, and yes, that is an option with limits. And there is a lack of humility and often a lot of expectations. In contrast, with yin and I, the person surrenders to an open-ended process. When we sit in the medicine hut, Ni is there to help us cope with the transformative experiences that happen for us and or others. So I definitely feel that I am set on a vision with geek psychology, with personality type, with helping people understand their strengths and their weaknesses and understanding themselves and appreciating other people. Like, I'm definitely set on that mission, but it's not like it's not clearly articulate in any way. There's no like crystallized, this is the thing that's going to happen, except for when I've done it through a process, like through a marketing process. And I've sat down, okay, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, what is the world that I want to create? What is a sign that I have created it? Like, I've done those and that's there, but it's not something that happened, that just came to me. It was like, I help people, so I need to do it more. And I need to figure out how to do that more. As with any function, when both sides play together, there's magic. They host a potent creative process. For example, a skilled artist, musician, or writer produces a beautiful, original piece as if out of nowhere. The piece reflects the organic, messy nature of the unconscious, with numerous compelling symbols, and yet also fits within the person's career vision and holds up under analytical analysis. That said, there is always a challenge of communicating the vision, prediction, or insight to other people. Yeah, I've written so many stories and designed processes and all these things that, like, I feel like it has to have this component and this component and this component and this symbol, and nobody's going to understand any of what I'm actually putting into this, but it just needs to be in there. And if I tried to communicate it, I think people would think I'm more crazy than they already do. Let's get past stereotypes. Typical portraits of NI users with feeling describe a poet, mystic, or psychic. Those are extreme yin and I. Thus, an INFJ might hold a dream of building a technology company to help society. He reads an INFJ type portrait and thinks, I am not so artsy or woo-woo, so I must be an INTJ. Similarly, INTJ portraits tend to show an intuitive tech genius like Nikola Tesla. And yes, some INTJs are like that, and society rewards technical marvels. But many INTJs lean into metaphysics and meditation and immerse in fantasy and science fiction and such. Those INTJs lack an INFJ's innate diplomatic skills. But when yin and yang NI are well integrated, the person can help others with keen insights and ideas. Super cool that you can and do use both of these, and like the cognitive functions, you have a preference for which one you use, and like the cognitive functions, the higher it is up on your stack usually means that you have a more well-rounded skill set around that function. And a lot of this comes from the time and energy that you've put into it and how like wide the bandwidth is, like how much energy you can put into it and still enjoy it. and get refueled by it. And it's a sign that it is one of your strengths. Like I know for me, when it comes to like organizing my world through extroverted thinking, it's my fourth function. I can do it only for a little bit. Like I get excited about it because I know that it's helpful for my FI visions and my goals and all these other things. But I can only do it for a little bit before I just feel overwhelmed by it or burnt out. And then I have to like stop and refresh and then remind myself and go back into it again. It's not something that I innately have a big bandwidth for. And so, with both of these two different variations of NI, you likely, seemingly, have a preference for one and do that one more often and have a higher bandwidth for that one. You have more skill points put into that version of the character. Like I imagine, I need my other hand here. I imagine I need my other hand. So I imagine you have NI, and then it kind of branches out into two different skill trees. And you can put a bunch of points into, let's say, the yin skill tree, and then you're going to have less to put into yang until you get to a higher level. Maybe by using it more, you gain more proficiency into it, right? Or I guess maybe you could kind of split them up into both, but then you're falling into that problem of not specializing, not individuating, and just being a jack of all trades, right? It's important that we focus on our strengths. Like that's why within personality type, I'm like, if you're an INFJ, you like lean into NI, lean into FE, because those are your strengths that you bring to the world. And then in your personal time, you can work on developing TI and SE and all the other ones in order to stop leaking your energy, right? In order to like find the I don't know if I want to say hacks, but find the little things that you can do to make it not as big of a problem until you naturally can develop it. But leaning into your strengths, the world will reward you for that because the world needs that. Whether or not the world knows that they need it is a different thing. Like, you know, the whole Henry Ford quote about like asking people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse because people didn't have the concept for what they actually needed. It's the same type of thing. People don't know that they need an I in this way. They don't know that all the personality types are awesome. You can't have a whole world full of warriors. You need healers, you need archers and DPS and magic damage, all these different things for us to have the full-on raid party that is necessary for maintaining and sustaining the human race. And with that, let me know down below in the comments which version of NI do you prefer, the visionary or the oracle, and how is that manifested in your life? If you give us, little snippets of your life, maybe that will help somebody else understand themselves better. And if you're curious to continue going down this rabbit hole of the two different variations of each of the cognitive functions, you can check out this video over here or this one over here. All right, good luck, have fun. Peace.